All right, guys, what's up? I'm Connor Ferguson, joined for another interview as part of the ARD podcast in our interview series with that. I'm joined today by Kerry Madsen, renowned, really successful sprint car driver out of Australia. Kerry, you're one of the bigger names to come out of the country of Australia in the rich history it has in sprint car racing. And we're going to dive into your career and all that in a second here, but thanks for coming on.
Oh, no worries. Thanks for the the great speech at the start. But then there's definitely some bigger names than me that came before me. But still nice you said that.
Who were the guys that you looked up to when you were coming in and trying to edge your name into the sport that had success coming from Australia?
You'd have to say Gary Rush. That was a guy that dominated Australia probably in the 80s, early 90s, 70s. And he came over here and, incredible businessman. So you'd have to say that was probably the premier Australian guy. And then you obviously had the Braziers, Steve Brazier, Gary Brazier. So they were pretty big too. And obviously Brooke Tatnall. So there's a few good names.
For sure. And then just to go off of the big news from this week, you're the newest inductee into the Knoxville Raceway Hall of Fame. I know it came on a day that ultimately got rained out, but how cool was that in getting those honors?
It's hard to, I don't know, like I feel like I'm just starting every year in sprint cars. Like you go through the process and you just work hard. So I don't know, Hall of Fame, I probably still haven't got my head around it, to be honest. It's kind of cool. It's definitely cool. I probably still haven't accepted it mentally, if that makes sense. But I don't know. It was cool that my wife was there, and she's been there the whole time for 25 years. So I guess it was kind of cool for her to do it. But I don't know. There's still more work to do, so we'll see.
Yeah, with all the things that you've won in your career, I mean, talk about 4 Australian titles, 3 classic wins at Kings Royal, and, getting inducted into a Hall of Fame. Does it ever, I guess, get normal for you, or is it kind of like that takes a while to set in anytime any of these honors kind of roll through?
I think the opposite. It amps up the pressure, and, you just get more nervous, I think, these days. You're just scared of a bad night. Miss the show, have a bad night, what's in this game these days, what's the past doesn't matter. So it's all about what we do in the future. You got to be fast, right? It's racing's so weird right now. So I don't know. I feel like I'm working harder than I've ever worked. So it's weird.
Yeah, so you kind of went on this adventure with Vermeer Motorsports, and you guys kind of joined forces and formed a team. How much are you involved with the team ownership side of things, and what has that prospect kind of done to open your eyes on that side of the sport?
The team runs out of my shop. I mean, I do it. It's just 2 guys, Doug Rankin and myself. So we do everything. And I was sort of like, I'm good at doing the race car stuff, but I'm terrible at like book work and all that. So you do that, you come up with some funding, and I do this, and we'll see what we got. But it's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it. I feel like I probably 12 months behind where I thought I would be, but racing is, post-COVID, it's just hard to get motors and engines and parts. So, but I've been pretty pleased with where our speed has been lately. So, and, originally when we pitched the concept, I was just like, hey, let's just get fast, and then we'll worry about the rest later.
Yeah, and obviously it's tough anytime, no matter where you're racing out of, when you have tough stretches and things. And there seemed to be a couple of weeks last year, a couple of weeks this year, where you guys just couldn't find your way to some luck or a good night. And then there's another month or so in the season where it's like you guys are hitting your strides. I think you had 7 or 8 finishes in a row on podium positions. What's the ups and downs like, and do different teams handle it differently, and how's this team handling it?
Fair question. I would say probably when I've been in a bigger team and, you get in an accident or you lose a race car, it's not that big a deal. But for a small team where we're trying to build our team up, and then we had two catastrophic, accidents 2 weeks in a row or 3 weeks in a row. And I didn't even know if we're going to be able to keep going. I mean, just because we don't have access to the parts or, budget. So somehow we kept it going. And then on the back of that, then we found some speed and got going really good. So it's emotional. It's definitely, I don't know. It's roller coaster is a bad word, but I mean, it's emotional. Like you don't know what's going to happen. And then, we had, obviously with racing, we had on one of the wrecks, we kind of lost an engine over it as well. So it was like, we lost a car and an engine. And you're like, holy shit, I don't even know how we're going to, I'm like, I don't even think we'll be able to keep going this week, but we've kept going. And now I feel like we're back on the front foot. So, but there's a lot of racing coming up and I don't know. It's not nerve wracking. That's for sure.
How close were you guys to, I don't want to say like taking a week off, but the team not existing to the point where, this is too big of a hiccup. We got to regroup either for next year, or, vice versa.
No, that was never an option. I was, on my behalf, I was a bit, I even said, and one of the wrecks, I got into with Carson McCall and he apologized to me the week later. And I'm like, hey, thank you for the apology. And I'm like, I'm just in a state of shock. So I was in a state of shock. However, obviously Tony Vermeer was full guns ablaze. Let's keep going. Like there was never any doubt on Tony's part that we were going to continue. So, and I think for me, I was just, doing the driver and I've got obviously more responsibility than just being the driver. So I was just a little, when you got to come and build wing brackets, you got to build nerf bars, because we build a lot of that stuff ourselves just because I wanted to. And all of a sudden you got to build all this stuff, all these parts, order all these parts because we didn't have them in inventory. And it's like, oh my God, I'm not sure, and like, obviously these things cost money. So you're like, I hope we got enough money, but, so we're just trying to build. Yeah, it was hard.
Absolutely. And just going through a couple of races from your career, the 2014 Kings Royal, was that the biggest win that you had, or is there a different one, probably a classic, that you would put up with 2014?
Yeah, probably the Kings Royal, especially because I felt like I got shafted a couple of times on that. So to win a Kings Royal was huge, especially with the Canary guys. That was really important for them to get that, and we got it. So it was definitely an accomplishment. And, we've run second at Nationals, so I put that up there too. And then, any big win, a classic or an outlaw win, it's all the same. It's all good.
What was that Kings Royal win like? And you were touring with the Outlaws full time at that point, or no?
Yes, yeah, we were that year, yeah.
What was it like to check that off in the middle of the season? Stand up there with the crown and the cape and all that, and all the things they do for post race.
Honestly, it was just a relief. I feel like I should have won one in 2010, and I was taking the white flag, and the yellow come out, and it was double file restarts in them days, even for 1 or 2 to go, and long story short, I lost the race, ended up running second. So, I mean, I couldn't sleep for 6 months over that. And I just felt like the biggest loser. Like, I just gave a King's Royal away. So to come back a few years later and actually get the job done and get the win, it was just relief. You're just relieved. And you just, it just kind of takes the pressure off. You feel a little lighter in the shoulders and you just go about your business.
Is it fair to say that you kind of race like running away from failure, running away from the possibility of not winning is scary to you, and you just want to make sure you get that win?
The winning things, I mean, I would say that to the point of not doing good, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's an outlaw show, high limits right now, like, you kind of expect it to be top 5, top 10. So if you don't do that, let alone, you get a bad pill draw in qualifying, and I mean, a lot of good cars don't even make the races these days. So that just amps the pressure level and the anxiety level right up.
You brought up High Limit and the Outlaws. We're, I think, a year and a half into this kind of split up that they've had. What have you seen out of sprint car racing? And you've been around far longer than I am, so I'm just going to trust your words. But what have you seen from this split? What has it done to sprint car racing?
I wouldn't call it a split. I would call it I think it's great. I mean, we've got 2 series. There's enough cars to fill both series. There's enough tracks. So I think it's actually been really good. And we've got the 2 broadcasters. So the content is fantastic. Like, it's great when you're not racing and you can watch either the Outlaws or the High Limits. So that part of it's great. Obviously, there's some negatives, but it seems like both series will stick up, rules-wise or calls-wise for their guys a little more because they want to look after their guys. But generally, I think it's fantastic.
What's some of the negatives that you've seen out of it? I know, like, the field's watered down. I don't necessarily believe in that. I think that's kind of, you can frame things however you want. But what are some of the negatives that you've seen from it?
I haven't seen too many negatives, to be honest. I think we've got a product, and there's 2 series, and they're both out there. So I think that's a positive. The only negative I would suggest is they're going to stick up, like on a restart or a start of a hit. They're going to let their guys get away with a little more because they want to keep their guys loyal to their series. So the only negative really overall could be if we get fractured with rules. As long as we stay under the same sort of rule structure in terms of engines, cars, and basically the way it all works, I just think it's positive. I mean, you have 10 to 15 cars on each series. Now they can't do one series. So and the way the basic purse structures and points work, I mean, there only room for 10 cars on each series anyway. So and then they get to go to a lot of new tracks, a lot of new markets. I'm pretty like up on the. It's not. I wouldn't call it like in the days where, like in the 90s or the NST, when it was a split. I see this more as a growth.
Yeah, I'm with you there because I think people I don't think they take into account that if it was only the Outlaws now, there wouldn't be 30 national teams.
You don't realize in the day there might have been 8 good cars. Now we've got, honestly, there's 10 good cars or 15 good cars on each series. Just like at Knoxville, the High Limits didn't race during the Outlaw show. There were 60 cars, and they're all badass. Do you know how hard that is, even just to make the race? Like, there's a lot of great race car teams out there right now, and even some of your, just, if you want to call it a local team, they're still really good. So it's just hard. So it's great that we have that growth, that there's places for all these people to go race.
For sure. And then it seems every year we get into some sort of talk, some sort of debate that there's been a rule change or they're going to make a rule change. Is there any certain rule that you want to see altered or changed in a way to make sprint car racing better? Or could be a selfish one too if you just like racing on a different thing. But
yeah, there probably is. I think they need to start opening the rules back up. The tires we have, it's kind of a struggle whenever you're back in the pack without clean air. The racing's not great back in the pack, so I'd like to see the tire rules open back up, and I'd like to see the wing rules open back up. Other than that, I would like to see long term everything sort of homologated. There's no need for us to. I mean, the engines have got to where we've almost got too much power anyway. So, as a sport, long term, I'd like to see some of the more expensive stuff sort of nutted down. But I'd like to see the wing rules open back up. If you want to run a dish wing or whatever you want to do there, I'm okay with that. I'd like to see, like, because I raced in Australia and we'd run on an 18-inch wide tire down there, and I just think that the racing's better in the dirty air and in the pack than it is here right now with this 16-inch wide I'd like to see that fixed. Yeah.
It does seem like the last couple of years that clean air has become even more advantageous, especially at Knoxville, where you and I are at every Saturday.
Yeah, no, definitely. The right rear we have, and just because I've raced in Australia this past year, and you can sort of race back in the pack where you come over here, and it's a 16-inch wide. It flops over. It's got no. I'd like to see the right rear fixed. Go back to the 18-inch wide.
Absolutely. And then I need you to educate me a little bit. I ask all my Australian friends about the Grand Annual Classic, and probably at the top of my bucket list of races I want to get down to. But we've talked a lot about how much bigger the Knoxville Nationals has gotten over the last 10, 15 years. How much bigger has the Classic gotten since you won your last Classic in 2008?
Good question. I don't really realize it until I think back. Oh, it has grown. Like the Classic has grown. Knoxville. I used to love the Nationals, and now I dread it. There's so many people here. It's so much pressure. I don't have that love for the Nationals like I used to. But in saying that, you base your whole year around it. But you have a good Nationals. It's the greatest thing in the world. You have a hiccup and miss the show. It's not fun. So I don't know. It's a lot. But the Classic's the same way. It's getting bigger. I wouldn't say it's the same level as the Nationals, but it's definitely Australia's biggest race. Yeah.
And they have a hell of a format down there too. I know they only used to put 16 in the A main, but I was talking with Glenn Saville a lot about how tough it is just to make it to that show.
It is tough, and funnily enough, interestingly, that's probably what's hurting. Like we had the high banks at Huset's, and everyone struggled to move at Huset's because the track was a little heavy, but the tire doesn't allow us to race. Whereas you go to Australia, you got the 18-inch wide, you got a better tire, so we can have a little weirder format, and it works. So I think that tire is kind of holding us back, and format-wise, and that's why obviously Outlaws have gone to fastest off the front, and the high limits are very similar, but it's great when you have the right tire package that you can have these formats, and the fastest cars always get there.
Yeah, I think you're selling me on the 18-inch tire. I don't know if you have a deal with them or what's up with that. But no, I hopefully we come to a fix on it at some point, and I mean that sounds as good of a plan as any to me, because I think right now
crew chiefs right now, they're all going to say the same thing. So I'm not sure how we got this tire where we are, but I mean it's the same for everybody. So don't mistake that. It's just that it's more susceptible when you're in dirty air with a flat wing, that we just kind of get stuck back there. But I don't know. Yeah.
No, I can see it in theory too, because when I watch races in Australia, I'm shocked at how little banking there is there. But you guys can still race and maneuver around people, I think, as good as anyone in the world, especially when I'm watching that in the off season.
I've said that. Just like I said, just go watch the racing in Australia. It's badass. It's been really good.
And I think that skill set kind of, and tell me if I'm comparing apples and oranges here, but it reminds me of the California drivers in different settings. I mean, they kind of go desperation mode and throw full on sliders a lot more than the Australians do, but it seems like you guys all have this innate ability to wiggle your car into these spaces that, a car probably shouldn't fit there, but there was barely enough room.
Yeah, that's a product of the format. When you learn to race down there, when you get fast, you've always got to start at the back of something. So you definitely learn some racecraft on starts, and especially in heat races, of how to be a little more aggressive, because you have to go for it. You need the points. So, and pretty much, the outlaw format's done away with that. So, I don't know.
All right. This is kind of an out of left field question. You've raced for 30 years. I'm not letting you pick Vermeer, the team that you're with now, but you've raced for Tony Stewart. You've raced for KCP, a ton of different sprint car owners over the years, and a lot of very big names. Which one was the most fun to race for?
I think at the end of the day, I mean, TSR was incredible, most incredible experience. But the Caneric racing with Bob and Pete Gavranich was probably, I don't know, there was just something about that was special.
That was the Kings Royal one, the 2014 year, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah,
for sure. And then I want to talk about 2005 a little bit too. You won your first Grand Annual Classic, and then you, I think, if I have the dates right, you'd follow it up with winning the track championship at Knoxville all in the same season.
Yeah,
I think you've got to be the only one to do that. I'm pretty sure.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, pretty good back then. Yeah.
How cool was that year? And it makes sense because I think the first time I talked to you when I was getting into covering this sport, you were one of the names I remembered growing up as a kid. And I was probably there in 2005, and there's people raving about the Madsen brothers, especially you, that you were leading the points.
I don't know. I mean, like at the time, you just like we were just running Knoxville locally, so we only did like 30 or 40 shows that year. And we weren't. We were really good locally, but we weren't on an outlaw level for that team at that time. So you just felt like you're, I don't know, just trying to get better and race. Yeah,
for sure. And what team did you race for in the Classic that year?
That was mine. My own.
That was your own team?
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha. That's awesome. You know, I'll do one more kind of broad one. But what is the single craziest, or you can pick an event, but craziest night that you've had at a racetrack, whether it was, you know, thrashing on the car to get it ready to go out for the A and somehow winning, or something of kind of similar to that?
It probably around 2016 or 2017 in Australia. I was with the Caneric guys, and we kind of sucked and had to basically run the C main. And I won the C, ran second in the B, and won the A from the back. So,
what track was that at?
That was at Sydney, Parramatta, Sydney Speed.
Right. I'm gonna try to find that race online somewhere.
Yeah, no, yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, and then weirdly, the night before, we're at the motel with my wife, and a bat shoot on me, and I'm like, oh man, this is not good. This is going to be our weekend, and we're in the C. And then it just all clicked. Won the C, second in the B, and won the A.
So you want me to bring a bat down to nationals in the pit area on your prelim night or Friday?
Excellent idea. Yes. Yeah.
We'll make it happen. We'll try our best. That's all I got for you. Was there anything that you wanted to say at the end here? Anything that you didn't want to, or that you wanted to talk about, you didn't get a chance to touch on?
No, I'm good.
Awesome. Well, thanks, you guys. Hope you enjoyed Kerry, and good luck to you, Kerry, the rest of the season here at Knoxville. Can't wait to see you at Nationals.
Thanks, Matt.